Case number 10, I'm the large one. Location, Amsterdam, Netherlands. Pieter loved the sentence, we're not a collection of separate little selves. It sounded freeing. Then his ego heard one word, little. Pieter paused. If we're not little selves, perhaps some of us are. Larger. Not physically. Spiritually. Obviously. Pieter had been attending a non-duality group near the Jordaan for 6 months. He was earnest, intelligent, and increasingly difficult to interrupt. At meetings, people shared experiences. Pieter shared frameworks. If someone said, I felt peaceful this morning, Pieter would nod. Yes, but peace is not really an experience. If someone said, I'm struggling with my brother, Pieter would ask, who is the I that is struggling? His friend Noor once whispered, the one sitting next to you regretting this conversation. Pieter smiled. Humor was often a defense against truth. One evening, the facilitator Annika said, the ego loves hierarchy. Even when it hears oneness, it tries to arrange oneness vertically. Pieter wrote that down. He had noticed this problem in others. Afterward, a newcomer named Bram said, I don't really understand any of this yet. Pieter put a reassuring hand on his shoulder. That's fine. We all begin somewhere. Bram looked at him. Where did you begin? Much where you are. 6 months ago? Time is ultimately unreal. Noor walked away laughing. The trouble grew when Annika introduced the phrase, one massive loving idea. Pieter felt something beautiful in it. His ego selected massive. The next morning, sitting beside a canal, Pieter thought, maybe spiritual maturity is simply becoming less small. That seemed right. He began noticing evidence. He no longer reacted to trivial things, except slow walkers, tourists in bicycle lanes, and people who used manifest incorrectly. But those were not reactions. Those were discernments. At lunch, Noor said, you've become very calm. Thank you. And very superior. Pieter frowned. That sounds like projection. See? Superiority requires comparison. Yes, I don't compare. You told Bram he's where you were 6 months ago. That was orientation. And you called my meditation practice preliminary. Developmental language. Noor stared at him. Your ego has a thesaurus. On Saturday, the group met in Vondelpark. Annika asked them to walk in pairs and listen without teaching, correcting, advising, or translating the other person's experience. Pieter was paired with Bram. This felt educational for Bram. Bram began. My mother died last year. Pieter softened. I'm sorry. I keep thinking I should be further along. 6 excellent teachings rose inside Pieter. Grief is identification. There is no death. Time is unreal. The self cannot lose. He remembered the instruction. Listen. Bram continued. Sometimes I'm okay. Sometimes I'm angry. Sometimes I just miss her. Pieter stayed quiet. Without teaching, he had no way to establish altitude. Bram looked at him. That's all. Pieter nodded. I hear you. They walked. Nothing needed fixing. No one was ahead. No one was behind. Just 2 men in a park, one grieving, one listening. Something in Pieter relaxed. Later, Annika asked what they noticed. Pieter raised his hand, then lowered it. Noor nearly fell off the bench. Annika smiled. Pieter? I was going to explain what happened. And? I think that may be what happened. The group laughed. He laughed too. That evening, Pieter cycled home along the canal. A tourist stepped into the bike lane. Pieter rang his bell. The tourist jumped aside. Normally, he would have muttered something about unconsciousness. Instead, he noticed the categories appearing. Little self, large self, awake, sleeping, advanced, beginner. The ego had not surrendered hierarchy. It had simply changed the labels. At home, Pieter opened his notebook. Under We're not a collection of separate little selves, he had written, Become less small. He crossed it out, then wrote No one is the large one either. Noor texted, How was the ride home, your vastness? Pieter replied, Humbling. She wrote, Careful. You'll become proud of that. He laughed. The next week, Bram spoke again. Pieter listened. No commentary, no correction. At the end, Bram said, Thanks. Pieter almost answered, There's no one here to thank. He caught it. You're welcome. Noor gave him a tiny nod. The ego had wanted oneness with a mezzanine level. Apparently there wasn't one. Terrible architecture, wonderful view,